I can't stand people that are like eating a bucket of like Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Like, I'm so fat, so fat, so fat.
I am a future network news anchor who's super classy and has almost no fat on her body.
Oh my God, what are you talking about? You're so skinny. Shut up.
Yes, I am skinny. And yes, I will be talking about thin privilege. So those of you following me for a while know that I love fashion, love styling fun pieces and putting together outfits, and I love making short form get ready with me fashion videos. The comments are usually really nice and encouraging and focus on the clothes that I am wearing. But occasionally, because this is the wild internet, I get unsolicited comments about my body. And specifically one comment that really struck me was, quote, "At what point are we gonna ask, is it cute or is she just skinny?" Was I offended by this comment? Truthfully told, yes, because it is questioning whether I actually have a good sense of style or that all I have is just a skinny body. Obviously, both are subjective, depending on how you define style and depending on how you define skinny. Okay, even though I was not delighted by this comment, it did remind me the whole debate of,
is it a fit or is she just skinny? Bella Hadid edition.
Is it an outfit or is she just skinny? And more so, as someone who fits into most people's definition of thin, I began to reflect more on the privileges I've been experiencing in life. Especially the fact that when I gained a bunch of weight in freshman year in college, I actually lost my thin privilege. Don't get me wrong, I've also been skinny shamed countless times in my life. You can watch my skinny shaming video for a further discussion, but being skinny definitely comes with a lot of advantages that I feel like is both triggering and taboo to talk about, but that's what this channel is for. We are a very mature and kind community, and I am sure that we can handle uncomfortable topics like such. So today, let's talk about what is thin privilege, how is it dangerous for the privileged self, and how is it dangerous for everyone else? And at the end of the day, is being thin actually a privilege? Exciting stuff. Let's dive in. What is thin privilege? Before we define thin privilege, there has been a long-winded debate on the internet whether thin privilege is real. So let's take a look at both sides. Quote, "Thin privilege is not getting triggered by doctors who tell you it will be healthy to lose some weight." Quote, "Thin privilege is something made up by those who feel insecure about their own weight. It is not real. It does not exist. If you feel insecure about yourself, stop trying to blame others and do something to change yourself." Quote, "Someone said that they would hire a skinny person over a fat person any day of the week if they were equally qualified." Quote, "There is no such thing as thin privilege. They have advantages and disadvantages. They sure can find good clothes a lot easier, but they need to work their butt off to achieve the kind of body I'll have when I drop these last 20 pounds of fat." Quote, "Become less obese. Haha, that's an elitist way of looking at things." Instead of jumping to a conclusion of whether being thin is actually a privilege, we need to look at both the advantages and disadvantages of being thin versus not thin. Scholars and activists have described thin privilege as a set of social advantages that skinny people have as a result of prejudice against people who are heavier or less lean. Because society values thinness, people in smaller bodies may experience social benefits like making friends more easily, as well as accessing structural advantages, such as being able to find well-fitting clothes in more stores and appropriately sized seats on public transportation. From this explanation, I'm getting two important pieces of information. First, thin privilege exists only in relation to the prejudice against people who are less lean.
I've never been marginalized because of my size. Never been told that my BMI is too high for a procedure. I've never had anybody look at me funny when I sit next to them on an airplane or any other public transportation. I've always been able to comfortably sit at seats at restaurants or in theaters. Every time I walk into a clothing store, I assume they have my size. I've never gone to a doctor and had them blame everything on the size of my body.
Second, The claimed privileges are more so based on the standard societal scale of normality, in ways such as the standard sizes of clothing, public seats, and so on. Let's first look at the flip side of the issue.
So I just got fat shamed by a brand. It's no big deal. It's fine. I'm fine.
You know, guys like him, they don't like big boned girls.
Fat shaming. Thin privilege is like the flip side of weight stigma, which is the judgment, shame, and prejudices against health and self-worth that people in bigger bodies experience.
The only reason you've never seen a pretty fat girl before is because when you meet a pretty fat girl, you come up with a different word. So you're like, no, she's not fat, she's curvy. No, she's not fat, she's just like a little plus size. Like, they just can't call her fat because fat isn't beautiful to them.
When you think about thinness in this context, the privilege of being thin isn't necessarily having an unfair advantage. It's about being free, having to experience the difficulties that others face.
Can't eat anything, but you got, you got a 2-ton tilly over here, eating everything.
As someone who has been on both spectrums of being extremely skinny to being kind of chubby, I know some people are going to come at me and say that I wasn't even severely obese. But even without being severely obese, I really did experience the loss of the thin privileges I had because I grew up being a very skinny kid, where being thin has been a natural part of my identity.
All throughout high school growing up, people, especially adults, would always make comments like, oh my gosh, you're so thin, do you even eat?
That I never gave second thoughts about until I lost that part of my identity and the benefits that came along with it. For instance, inherently believing that I will look good on any clothes I try on, only to realize that the fit did not go on as imagined. And getting snarky little comments from the store associate telling me to stay away from certain styles, which is terrible sales and customer service, but also extremely humiliating. This is not saying skinny shaming is not real. Oh, it is real for sure, and something I experience a lot. The number of times I get called anorexic, accused of having or promoting eating disorder, it's just making me tired rather than angry at this point.
Because being skinny has a positive connotation in our society, people feel it completely normal and acceptable to comment on your body when you are skinny.
But there is just no need and no way to compare skinny shaming with fat shaming. And for crying out loud, it's not a competition to see which one induces more pain and suffering. Although with its own set of stereotypes and implied aggressions, being skinny definitely creates a halo effect. And this is why skinny privilege is dangerous. The danger for others, like pretty privilege, or almost an extension of pretty privilege. Thin privilege is rooted in the halo effect. To better understand the full effect, let's first look at the horn effect on the opposite side of the spectrum. Weight stigma.
If you're not losing weight, even though you're trying everything, number one, you're a liar, and number two, it is 100% still your fault.
According to a multinational investigation of associations between weight stigma and healthcare experiences by Politel, between 63% and 74% of people surveyed in Australia, Canada, France, Germany, the UK, and US felt belittled because of their weight while visiting a doctor for healthcare.
I went to the doctor today. Found out something I had no fucking idea about. I'm obese. Who knew?
This is extremely dangerous because participants reported that they were more likely to view that their doctors were negatively judging them about their weight, so they would get less frequent checkups with the doctor.
I just got out of the doctor and she goes, hey, you're really fat. And I said, yeah, I know. I'm just here to get my medication renewed. It's Lexapro. Like, it's not even weight related. Like, can I just get my medicine?
The study found that those beliefs persisted even if the person was not significantly overweight, which makes it further more concerning. As long as you feel like your weight is being stigmatized at a health facility, no matter if you're actually overweight or not, there's a higher chance that you'll be less inclined to seek medical help to avoid potential shaming around your weight. Now switching to the halo effect.
Oh, I'm thin! I'm
The halo effect, also referred to as the halo error, is a type of cognitive bias whereby our perception of someone is positively influenced by our opinions of that person's other related traits. A single positive quality of a person may induce a positive predisposition toward every aspect of that person, while one negative attribute of that person may induce an overall negative impression of that person, hence the Horn effect.
Do you want fat people to live in closets until they're not fat anymore? Until they're the weight you want them to be?
In the context of thin privilege, thin people are inherently seen as healthy. Doctors don't push thin individuals to change their eating or exercise habits. Thin people may be viewed as less lazy or undisciplined than fat people. They tend to have an easier time getting lower health insurance. They may have an easier time getting promotions and higher paid works, and are less likely to have their food choices scrutinized. This last one is a little debatable. Because if I eat a salad, I get comments like, "Oh, you should live a little, eat more, eat a burger." And when I do eat a burger, people are like, aren't you supposed to eat super clean to stay skinny? Okay. Stereotypes are how we try to make sense of the world by prescribing patterns that we are already familiar with to new scenarios. Generally, thin people are healthy, as working out, eating clean generally lead to lean physique, which implies that they are disciplined and get sick less through a healthier lifestyle. Is this always true? Absolutely not. During high school, when I was also thin and super active, my immune system was down the sewage where I would get a fever basically every month, more regular than my period.
So you think I'm skinny?
The danger is not making logical deductions from someone's physique, but overusing the generalization and ignoring blind spots. Just as someone skinny could be just skinny through genetics and is not more diligent or skilled than an overweight counterpart, an empirical analysis in China found that women's BMI negatively affects income and that the negative effect is reinforced as occupational rank increases. 29% of the income gap between overweight and average women can be explained by the obesity penalty. It is no doubt that our BMIs can impact and influence our lives in uncountable ways that can't even be measured. But what about for the individual who is skinny? Danger for the self. Now, you might think those on the ends of receiving the benefits of thin privilege have a pretty solid life, right? But there is also danger for the privileged ones, as it is easy to base your worth on how your weight fits into the current body ideals. I hate to break it to you, but no matter how thin you are, body ideals are changing by the minute. 1 minute you can be too thin, and the next you can be overweight. To maintain this quote-unquote privilege, diet culture is born and almost glorifies losing weight at all costs. Because after all, who wants to be shamed and impeded in life because of their weight?
It doesn't matter how much positive energy you put into the world, you're still gonna have people who have something mean to say about you.
Especially if you've been fat shamed before, you know how disabling it feels to be looked down upon just because of your body, of your weight, and begin to feel uncomfortable in your own skin. While people of all genders experience the effects of thin privilege, society tends to pressure women especially to achieve a thin body and put effort into maintaining a socially desirable appearance. In fact, some scholars argue that for women, fitting into the thin ideal can impact their success in multiple aspects of their lives. This is not just true in the entertainment or creative industry, but basically in all professions. To assume superiority and have an inflated ego of getting accustomed to an appearance-based privilege is extremely dangerous. Especially if you're riding that fake high on external validations, you will crash especially hard when that privilege is gone. Trust me, I've been there. This happens when the standard changes or when it's no longer healthy or sustainable for you to stay at a certain BMI. It is also a double-edged sword where instead of being recognized for your talents and hard work, someone could easily point at you and say, oh, you just got everything because you have a thin body. Just because your body fits into the current beauty standard. There is literally no way to win.
I'm not even lying when I say that the sales lady gave me my dress and she's like, oh, this is a size 14, and then said, I'm sorry. What?
And the pressure is much, much heavier on women. For instance, when Joaquin Phoenix lost over 50 pounds for his role as Joker, he was applauded as someone professional and dedicated to the role. But when Adele lost weight, she was criticized for no longer being body positive, for giving into thin standards. All the while, when female celebrities gain weight, they are harshly criticized as being unrecognizable. So at the end of the day,
I thought maybe it was a good time to remind everyone that she has an Oscar, 5 AMAs, 18 Billboard Awards, and 15 Grammys. So maybe people could stop acting like this weight loss is her greatest achievement. Or just stop commenting on other people's bodies in general.
yes, being thin has its privileges, but also not without its own set of problems and dangerous implications, including the pressure to stay thin and external misconceptions.
I had split the sandwich in half and separated the fries that I was going to eat. So in total, this meal was about 400 calories.
Even though as humans, as visual creatures, we will never be fully free from our visual biases.
Let's just be honest, people are more receptive when a skinny person talks about these issues than when a fat person does.
It is important to recognize these potential blind spots and know that there's always more than just one side to a story. So have some empathy toward others and yourself. And most importantly, never sacrifice your health for whatever privilege that is shining under the current body trend. Looks and trends come and go, but confidence is always in style.